Rebel Force Radio.
Here's a Star Wars and pop culture reference. The Jerry Garcia?
Right.
What's this about?
All right, of course. I love Star Wars. And I also love the Grateful Dead. I would classify myself as a Deadhead. I was really into the band a lot in the 80s and 90s. They've seen sort of a resurgence over the last few years, and a lot more people are listening to the Grateful Dead. Good old Grateful Dead, American music. And I've become a big fan of a show on Sirius XM hosted by Steve Parish, who was Jerry Garcia, the lead guitarist for the Grateful Dead. He was Jerry Garcia's roadie and manager and stage manager, and he's a keeper of the flame when it comes to telling great Jerry Garcia stories. So he hosts a show every week on Sirius XM called The Big Steve Hour, not to be confused with Big Honkin' Steve Glosson. This is Big Steve Parish, and he's a straight shooting guy. I really enjoy listening to his stories. And last week on the Big Steve Show, someone finally asked the question that I've been wondering for the longest time. Was Jerry Garcia a Star Wars fan? And I know Jerry was a big fan of movies, and so Steve fielded this question from the caller, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
About Jerry, what did he think about Star Wars?
He liked it. He liked Star Wars. He liked that kind of stuff, but he wasn't nuts about it in any way. You know, we used to work with George Lucas a lot, and we would record up at Lucas Valley because we used to own a piece of land. We called it Dead Patch. We were going to build our own commune on Lucas Valley Road, which is not named after George Lucas. It's Old Man Lucas way before that. The place that George Lucas bought was called the Bulltail Ranch, and we owned a piece there that we had to sell in 1970 because we ran out of money, and we wanted to build this whole thing. So anyway, we would go up and record at George Lucas's place. We got to know him really well. And Jerry was very respectful of his, expertise. And, of course, American Graffiti, we were part of that. It was filmed all in this area. And so we knew him from all that stuff. And George Lucas is a great guy. He really is. Now he has his whole thing at the Presidio and all this thing. But Jerry likes Star Wars. He loves science fiction. But movies like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that would affect him even more. We went to see that a couple of times. Jerry loved all movies, and he liked the first Star Wars. I went to see it with him, C-3PO and all those guys were new. They were brand new form of movies. But he didn't go overboard about it. We liked all of them. He wasn't obsessed. Right, he wasn't obsessed with Star Wars.
Jerry and the guys are coming over. Record. What, Jim, did you know this at all, that there was a relationship between George Lucas and Jerry Garcia? They on the same land? They were neighbors practically?
Well, yeah, actually, I've learned this over the past few years. Obviously, two of the biggest pop culture properties to ever come out of Northern California is the Grateful Dead and Star Wars. I mean, huge, massively merchandised, huge fan bases, loyal fan bases. And I knew that their paths had crossed. Now, I started getting into the Grateful Dead over the past few years, and a lot of my trips to San Francisco to go to places like Skywalker Ranch, Lucasfilm, and Rancho Obi-Wan, I mean, making those regular trips out there has exposed me more and more to the music out there. And so I've been able to see members of the Grateful Dead in the Bay Area perform with of course, Stu from Rancho Obi-Wan. He's always been a good guy to sort of show me around the Bay Area music scene. But George Lucas and the Grateful Dead, they definitely would cross paths regularly. The Dead did record up in Skywalker Ranch. Mickey Hart, Grateful Dead drummer, would record up in Skywalker Ranch. And there's a great video online of George Lucas giving Mickey a tour of one of the sound stages that they have there in the tech building at Skywalker Ranch. And, this big giant room where they record anything from huge symphonies to rock bands like Metallica and the Grateful Dead. So that happens at Skywalker Ranch, and George pokes his head in to see what's going on. Hey, something smells funny in here. Grateful Dead must be here. So that, and then they also had a mutual bond over the teachings of Joseph Campbell. Oh. And that sort of thing. Yeah, the Grateful Dead were very much in touch with all of that stuff. And so that's something that Jerry and George Lucas would actually get together and discuss, and they would talk about things. Another connection with the Grateful Dead, this is something I just learned with a documentary that came out about the band last summer called A Long Strange Trip. Former Dead recording engineer Dennis the Wizard Leonard, who's famous for recording Europe 72 for the Grateful Dead, has been working on film sound at Skywalker Ranch for years now at Skywalker Sound. And so, there's a guy who's recorded Grateful Dead albums actually working in sound on major motion pictures that you've probably seen, not Star Wars films. I went and looked at his IMDb, and he didn't work on Star Wars. But, yeah, Dennis Leonard, the Wizard, he is there at Skywalker Ranch as well. So there's many connections. Jerry Garcia had a house on Lucas Valley Road right next to Skywalker Ranch. And you heard, Steve Parish mention Lucas Valley Road. George Lucas has nothing to do with the name of that road.
Total coincidence.
It's a total coincidence, but it's great. You go to Skywalker Ranch, you get off the 101 at Lucas Valley Road.
Right.
And
I'm sure George saw it as a sign. Yeah, this is the place.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Seems like home to me. And then, he probably then told everyone that he owns the road, and but no, it's cool. It's so there's a lot of Grateful Dead Star Wars mashups too, merchandise, a lot of cool pins. I've actually started collecting them.
Nice.
And then here in my studio, Jason, you sent me a Funko Pop of Jerry Garcia, and so he's standing right next to my customized Zero the Hutt action figure. What a pair! That's a party right there. That's a party right there.
Oh man.
I have to take a picture of that. So.
Yeah.
But more connections between the Grateful Dead and George Lucas than you would presume, for sure.